I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. So lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. And it's a very interesting subject. Tonight I'm talking to Dave G on a subject which has intrigued me and lots of other people. Perhaps tonight we will get some answers. The subject is not so much about Neil de Beer, but about the men and women, often based overseas, who pull the strings when it comes to politics in South Africa and around the world. Lord Renwick is allegedly Julius Malema's handler, and George Soros's Open Society Foundation, that of the ANC government. Democracy has little to do with policy once a political party or leader takes power. Since Neil de Beer popped up in the political scene 6 months ago from nowhere, there has been, in my mind, a complete disconnect in a man who is making a fortune out of doing billions of dollar infrastructure deals with African nations through his position as president of the World Bank in Africa and through his Mauritius-based investment fund Africa. So what is his sudden motivation and belief that he will be president in South Africa in 2024? In short, the question is, who is Neil de Beer's handler? Tonight, I think we might be a bit closer to the answer to that question. Listen carefully to this short extract from an audio clip in which Neil de Beer answers his own question to my guest tonight. And that question is, do you know who I am? I'll just play that short clip for you.
Neil, ja, Neil, as ek jou net verduidelik.
Before you do, can I ask you, do you know who I am? I mean, what do you know about me?
I've seen a little bit of the videos that you've posted, and I've seen a bit of the history. You used to be with Mkonto Isizwe. You used to be one of the spies, one of the Mandela spies in the in that time in that regime and whatsoever. But
do you know what I do now?
I've seen you finished off with Mkonto, and you are starting now this program. You want to become like you joined up with Musi Maimane to form a political party, and you want to change the country and basically become a leader or president.
No, but do you know what I do for a work? I mean, this is the thing that I always start off with. People don't know what I do.
No, I don't. At this moment, I don't. I've only seen you driving around with the blue light brigade and making a video.
I'm the president of the World Bank for Africa.
Okay, that's pretty interesting actually. That you mentioned
I'm the president of the investment fund Africa, and I sit on the World Economic Forum.
Okay.
My home is actually in Spain.
Okay, that's great.
I don't stay here.
Yes.
My head office for the World Bank is in Barcelona.
Okay, great.
I also run the beers. I'm the great-grandson.
Okay, great, great.
I'm the chairman of DEPCO. So what I wanted to tell you before we start questioning, I am not...
Okay, there you heard it from the horse's mouth. His involvement in De Beers, the World Economic Forum. Okay, I think you're starting to get where we're going here. Last year, Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum talked of the Great Global Reset. Now we learn that Neil de Beer is, by his own admission, a member of the World Economic Forum, as well as being president of the World Bank in Africa, two of the key organizations that are pushing for a one world government. This is now where we move into murky waters. When you consider the company Neil de Beer keeps, company he rarely discusses. That company includes Klaus Schwab, prime ministers and presidents, and by default, with the financial backing of his handlers and the fracturing of the ANC, it will be interesting to see how the bought mainstream media in South Africa portray Neil de Beer as a presidential candidate leading up to the 2024 elections. Time will tell. Please register on our new platform we are transitioning to. That's lovinglifetv.com, a platform where big tech cannot censor us. Please ask your questions in the side chat. I'll put those to David later. Tonight I'll be talking to Dave G about this conspiracy theory and looking at who is actually backing Neil de Beer's political career through the UIM. I will get our guest on. Here we go. Hi, Dave.
It's on. Here we go.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. Dave, can you turn that audio down that is playing the live stream, because I can hear it coming through, and it'll cause a problem.
Yes. I did, no problem.
Okay.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you very well. Yeah, that's perfect. Now,
Okay.
I think you listened to the introduction and what I had
Yes,
to say. Just from the comment I made about handlers, what are your thoughts there before we get into this discussion?
Okay, may I ask this? Okay, can I just quickly discuss this briefly?
Please, go ahead.
Why I'm doing this, first of all, and for who I am doing this. First of all, I hate no one. I've got nothing against anyone. Every citizen in this country is my people. I see them as my people. And I got into a position where a lot of this information came to me out of thin air, basically. I challenged Neil de Beer one day on Facebook. He made a comment that he's going to be a leader for all, and he's going to be a president for all. And I asked him, before you claim to be a leader of my people, I would like to debate you. I don't know why I did it, but obviously a lot of information came out of that. And even Neil de Beer, if some of his people, they know me by now, I've met them, and if some of the people are listening in or online, this is not against Neil de Beer. I actually pity the guy. Growing up in a business family, a very much connected business family like he did, and basically living a double life most of his life. I really feel for the guy. I don't think he's the head of the snake, to call it that, in my honest opinion. He's not the head of the snake. But I do think he's been pushed into a position to act in that role at the moment. So Neil, if for anybody that's with Neil listening, that's my honest opinion. I recorded the conversation for some reason, which is a good thing I did, actually, because we need South Africans to start opening their eyes and seeing what's going on. Some of you might know I had a live stream earlier under Mr. X. And the main reason for that is I'm just a normal South African like you guys. So I don't have protection and security around me to protect me against whatever repercussions might come of this. I just want to see us moving forward and break away from this cabal, this situation every South African is placed in. And this goes for white, black, colored, Indian, every single one of us. I believe we are divided on purpose, and it is a system of order out of chaos at the moment. We've got chaos all over the world, and we can see all these massive moves of governments and policy implementation and changes happening at this time, where we're supposed to be in a pandemic and everybody's supposed to look out for each other and help each other. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly before we get into this, Scott.
Right. I totally get it. Now, tell us briefly your background and how you first crossed paths with Neil de Beer. Was it on Facebook when you challenged him to a debate? How did that happen?
Okay, basically I heard briefly from Neil de Beer, from a guy I met here in my hometown, and he said to me, "You think this guy is the next leader? So look into it a bit." And the guy was actually from the Boerdelegioen. I just met him through a extended family member. And so I looked into it, and I saw 1 or 2 videos with the Blue Light Brigade and driving around, and I'm free of the enemy now, and I'm going to be the president now, and stuff like that. So I started, obviously, like everybody else, raising my own questions. And actually, a lot of things happened over the last couple of years that got me into this position. It started off as basically trying to help people through this crisis, and started bumping heads with politicians, local politicians in my municipality. And it just snowballed from there, basically. I really, if I look back on all the events that happened, it fits together like a puzzle somehow. And so then I saw this comment one day, and I looked at Neil de Beer, and I went on Facebook, and I saw this discussion, and he made a comment there, and he said, like I said, I'm going to be a leader for everyone. And so then I just posed the question, before you can be a leader for my people, I would like to debate you. I believe I'm a very logical person. I like facts. Everything must be factual and logical. And at the moment, to be honest, none of the things in this country or with these people are logical at all to me.
Right. Okay. Now, with Neil de Beer's discussion with you, it goes for nearly 90 minutes. And he's talking to you like you're an old friend. I mean, I've got a copy of that tape, and I might play parts of it because I've actually gone through the whole thing and made comments at certain timestamps. Now, the thing that struck me was that when Neil de Beer was speaking to you, and look, I've spoken to Neil de Beer several times on live streams here on my channel. He confided in you in things that he never ever shared with me. Like, for example, his involvement with the World Economic Forum. That to me was like a huge warning sign. What the hell is this guy doing involved with that group where Klaus Schwab, who's the leader of the World Economic Forum, said last year that there's going to be a great global reset, there's going to be a global government, a one world currency, and he said by 2030, everybody who is listening to him will own nothing. They will own nothing, but they will be happy. Now, why did he open up so openly to you? Because that doesn't make any sense.
I honestly don't have an answer to you there. This has been happening for the last at least 2 years. When I was bumping heads with local politicians and stuff, where I felt they treated the community and the local people immorally, basically, and totally unrighteous. So I believe when it comes to the truth, there's no other option than to talk the truth. You cannot. I don't lie about anything. I try to do righteous business and live a righteous life. It's a decision I made after obviously messing up like everybody else. And And I think that's got something to do with it. I honestly can't tell you, but I know for a fact that he did disclose things that maybe he shouldn't have or wished he didn't have. But I am glad that he did. And even to Neil, like I said, I'm glad that he did, because we need change for the first time in many, many years in this country, because these people have been playing this game for a long, long time. I honestly, personally believe since the apartheid government, they've been playing this game. And you can go through some of the talking points on that recording, Scott, and I can fill in the gaps for you.
Right. Okay. Well, look. Let's get into a bit of background here to your views on things, and let's start off about the state of play in South Africa. We know that the ANC is very close to fracturing, and that makes it very weak, and it makes the possibility of a Neil de Beer in 2024 with the right backing to actually take power. But let's talk about today. South Africa should ask logical questions concerning our state of affairs and mass political corruption. Why do you think the mainstream media in South Africa are just skirting around the issues and not actually tackling them and making the government act on them?
Well, first of all, obviously the mainstream media is owned. You know, the global mainstream media is owned as a fact by something like 7 people. So obviously our South African media is also owned. I asked a stupid question today, just posted a stupid comment today of News 24 blowing this, the alcohol ban is up for, is looming. Why would they chase us all to bottle stores to get alcohol when there's serious stuff happening in our country? You know, there's a massive split in the ANC, which I see as a deliberate. I see it as deliberate because it all falls into place with this great plan. I mean, up pops Neil de Beer, pops up 2 or 3 of Julius Malema's civil war. He basically called for civil war or threatened civil war. And here comes Neil de Beer popped up there, and the next moment the DA start disintegrating, the ANC starts disintegrating. We've got all these other organizations popping up, which are all linked, by the way. Like you can listen in that recording. Neil de Beer is highly connected with Michael Louis, and the Louis family, the billionaire banker family. And so I know for a fact, which I said last time as well, after discussions with, for instance, Jared Petzer of Move 1 Million. It's very much Michael Louis connected. And Masawa Lekota, I mean, he's the first one that put that new independent presidential legislation that was already passed by Mogoeng, which also in the recording, Neil claims he meets personally to discuss these things.
Yes, he does.
So it's very much connected to me, and seeing everything else falls apart plays into this game plan. And even I met our local Saldanha Bay municipality mayor a while ago, while I was bumping heads with local politicians for a couple of hours. And I mean, even his admittance that there won't be a one-party rule, we'll have a coalition. And you can hear clearly out of that recording, yes. There's 2 options for us going forward. It's either a coalition or this one independent candidate rulership, which are being rolled out across the globe, actually. I mean, you can see that in many countries. Many countries opt for the one rulership, like I personally see China declared their leader emperor for life. Russian president extending his term. So this is taking place around the globe while we have a pandemic. And I personally got involved in this because I'm tired of South Africans suffering. I'm really tired of us being divided along racial lines, the land question. Why would our government not do a land audit and make that information public? Why was it possible for Eskom a little while ago from Malibeng municipality to receive 2.5 billion rand worth of agricultural land? I mean, that's agricultural land. What's Eskom going to do with it? Eskom is government again. And then we hear Julius Malema shouting, all land must be owned by the government. Who owns the government? So who will own the land and the food supply? This is, in my opinion, this is total ownership and total control of our country, our food supply, our economy, our minerals, and everything. And black, white, colored, and Indian are being pinned against each other by puppets. I mean, look at these people. They're all billionaires. They're all billionaires, but they pretend to care for the people in this country, which I don't see them do. None of them. I've been in email discussions with our government and with our Chief Justice, Mugwen, stating lots of these facts. South Africans can bring down our government by just using and implementing our constitution, the supreme law of the land, by just taking Julius Malema to book and said, okay, when Jacob Zuma stood there and he said in front of the entire country, making himself complicit, number one, that he knows exactly who steals the money and where they're stealing it from. He's not forced to share any of that information, admitting to knowing about a crime, and then just keeping quiet. And then the media talks to Julius Malema. What is your thoughts and opinion on this? And he's like, I don't know, go talk to the police. That's not his constitutional obligation as an MP in Parliament. And every single other one of them, they don't care about the people of South Africa.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen, Scott, how many times have you seen a minister in government or an MP in government being taken to book by an opposition party? It's all this nonsense and media hype because we, the people, expect the opposition or the government or the Chief Justice or the opposition party to do something on our behalf. They're not going to do anything. That's the point. In my opinion, these guys are all really in cahoots.
Yeah.
Because the trillions of dollars stolen out of this country over the years, every year we get an Auditor General report that states clearly this money is misappropriated. So isn't that like, who's responsible? Isn't it their responsibility to hand it to the Hawks or to the finance minister, and he hands it to the Hawks and say, investigate this, because it's pretty easy. You follow the money trail, which is electronic these days. People don't walk around with billions of rands.
Yeah.
So you follow the money trail and you put the book.
Yeah.
And not even our opposition is pushing for this, because they all care for their own gain. They are all there representing people that owns this country.
It's a complete mess. It's a complete mess. Now, I want to get back to this Louis guy, okay? We're talking about Michael Louis. I'd actually never heard of him before. I'm just going to play a short clip where Neil de Beer talks about Michael Louis and talks about the second revolution. Let's hear that.
Alle mense, julle is besig om kakkie aan te vang en hoor nou vir my 'n tweede revolusie kom.
Ja.
Maar ek het nie net op my agterend gesit nie. Toe ek sien hierdie ding gaan nie draai nie, nê.
Ja.
Toe kom daar 9 besigheidsmanne onder 'n man met die naam van Michael Louis, Dave.
Ja.
Michael Louis was the founder of the ACDP,
Yeah.
the African Christian Democratic Party.
Yes.
And he was a cabinet minister of the Western Cape legislature for 10 years. He was minister of economic development.
Ja, ja.
Maar hy kom uit 'n biljoenêr familie uit, né? Die Louis groep. Hulle het 'n bank in Europa, hulle het plase. So hy is eintlik 'n besigheidsman, maar hy's 'n fundamentele Christen.
Ja.
'n Fundamental Christian.
Okay, I've just played that clip where he talks about the second revolution and Michael Louis. Can you just put a bit of context behind those two statements he makes?
Okay, first, sorry, my sound was muted, and I unmuted it, but I couldn't hear that. But okay, I remember the discussion. Okay, Michael Louis seems to be a key figure in South Africa, actually, behind a lot of these organizations. He clearly refers to Michael Louis, and I've never heard of Michael Louis before this. In all honesty, I've never heard of the guy. And but I learned from Jared Petzer, from other organizations, and from Neil de Beer that he's the main brain behind this. And he's a billionaire banker. He was the founder of the ACDP, African Christian Democratic Party. He helped draw up a constitution for the country, apparently. That's as far as Neil and Jared Petzer and these guys explained to me. And he's also the one that drew up the legislation for the independent presidential candidacy that's been passed by the Constitutional Court. So obviously this guy's got some clout in how our government operates, or it seems like that at least.
Right. Do you think he's a potential handler of Neil de Beers?
Well, I do think he's very influential. I do believe he's very influential in a lot of these pop-up organizations. And as you must have heard there, I referred to Musi Maimane as well. I'm not sure if you wanted to play that separately. But where Neil explains to us that I asked him about partnering with Musi Maimane, and he explains to us that Musi Maimane is basically handled by a German business consortium.
Right,
and
the OSA.
OSA, one South Africa. And his job is basically to work in the rural communities and basically prep these guys for the new independent candidacy legislation and future, can I almost say, where we're working towards. And I do see Michael Louis. I think the people will find it interesting to look into his history a bit and his global banking connections. And I don't know the guy. If he's by any chance he sees this video or listens, I don't know you. I've got nothing against you, but I honestly don't accept what is happening here.
Right. Okay. Now, there's so much stuff in that audio tape that I want to get to, but I'm just trying to keep things sort of flowing naturally here. Now we talked about the statement about Macheng, the chief judge, and where Neil de Beers says that this guy is backing him. And he often talks to him. Now, I'm just going to play that little clip because this gives people an idea of what goes on behind the scenes that they don't know about. And this is why I was actually blown away by what he revealed to you during your discussion. That's why I asked about your relationship with Neil de Beer. I'm just going to play that audio clip and then I'd like you to comment. Here we go.
Een van my sê nie. Ek het 'n boekie in my flat, né?
Ja.
Duif. Dis die Bybel.
Ja.
Ek is 'n nuwe ou wat 'n nuwe beginsels glo. Maak nie saak of jy inherent, fundamenteel of diepe Christen is nie. Hier's 'n boek op my tafel en ek kry antwoorde daar.
Nou as jy
ek is nie 'n soet eter nie, né?
Yes.
Ek is 'n besigheidsman, ek hardloop, ek stamp, maar ek het net een ding besluit. Woensdag het ek en regter Mogoeng, né?
Ja, ek hou nogal van hom, ja.
Ek was 3 ure by hom.
Ja.
That's why I asked.
Hy wou my sien. Ek wou hom nie sien.
Mhm.
Ek was by Mogoeng. En ek en hy het besluit dat hy agter my gaan staan.
Okay.
En dat ons justisie gaan terugbring in hierdie land. En dis hoekom ek gaan vir jou die video stuur op jou WhatsApp. Dis hoekom ek gister daai statement gemaak het in die pers.
Ja, ja.
Ons moet vir Julius, nie vir Julius nie. Julius is 'n mens, Julius gaan doodgaan of van natuur of in sy eie hel, verstaan jy?
Ja, ja.
Okay, now there we heard him talking about Macheng and him supporting the UIM and Neil de Beer in particular. I again just can't understand why he'd come up with all these revelations to someone he hardly even knows.
Well, that's, like I said, that part I'm thankful for. And because we need to know this. We need to know this. Before that, I have been in quite a few debates with politicians, with some local DA politicians, and others as well that came on my path. And yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe he thought I worked for someone. I don't know. I honestly don't know why he opened up, but I'm glad he did. I'm really glad he did.
Right, as I said, I've spoken to him several times, and he's never gone into this sort of stuff with me, which is, I guess he hadn't realized that he was being taped. But that's another story altogether. Now, let's get back to a point that we were talking about earlier, and carry on.
Chief Justice Mogoeng. I did send him an email and his department an email a while ago about what their specific obligations are if we have a constitutional crisis in South Africa. What is the Chief Justice's obligation? And because I actually like Chief Justice Mogoeng, and I like the fact that he's a believer, and I don't agree with everything he does and says, but I actually like the guy. He seems pretty straightforward and honest. But the question came that direct involvement with someone that wants to now become the president and roll out this new system, and I questioned his role in our current parliament. And I actually requested the steps to take to approach the Constitutional Court with some of these matters, because somebody needs to at some time. And they did respond, and they sent me all the information. But they know what I am talking about here. They know what I'm about. They know our government. I have emailed them, most our ministers and opposition leaders, and the president and the vice president. I've emailed them and said to them, guys, this is not righteous what you are doing. The land issue, there is solutions for it. There's actually solutions for most of our South African problems if they stop dividing us for their own personal gain. So I did put a lot of things out to them, and the fact that last time I spoke to you about the food price increases and how that directly translates to more people starving and dying, and they have to act. They have to act now, and this goes a year back since I started these discussions with them, and the reaction are all so selfish. It's all selfish. They want to protect themselves. And they want to make a way for themselves. I did ask them the question, all of them. Where do you think this corruption will end? Are you guys short-sighted? You think it's going to end in bloodshed in the streets and innocent people kill each other for your greed and personal gain? You're going to run away and leave the country in tatters? What's going to happen here? What is the long-term plan? What's the end game? But obviously it seems there's another end game to this.
Right. Well, you're totally correct that the opposition politicians seem to be very, very quiet on the subject of corruption in the parliament. I mean, that should be something that they should be hammering every day of the week, and it does make them complicit because they don't actually do something about it. Now, I want to get to another piece of this audio tape, which again, this is where I wonder about Neil de Beer's motivation. And this is coming from him personally, and I'll tell you what he says in short, and you'll remember the conversation, but I want to play this for people who are listening. We've got about 500 people listening at the moment. And what Neil de Beer says is that basically he's going to leave, or he was looking at leaving for Spain last year to get out of South Africa because he had had enough. Now, weeks later, he sets up the UIM and says he's going to be president of South Africa. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. We'll play that first, and then he goes on to talk about our future, and then he talks about the ANC. This is something you mentioned about coalition. He talks about the ANC dropping below 50% in 2024, and if the UIM gets 6 million votes, they will hold the balance of power, and that will put him into that position of power. So I'm just going to play that clip. So go ahead.
Just before you play that clip, I just think it's very important that people should understand, where this guy is coming from. Like I said, Neil de Beer, I've got nothing against you as a person. I disagree with everything that's going on here and what you guys are doing. If your intentions, long-term intentions, is good for the country, I don't care. Actually, we see what's going on here. Okay, and okay, play that clip. I'll make a comment on that afterwards.
All right. Okay, here comes the clip with Neil de Beer talking about these issues, and starting with his saying, "I'm going to leave for Spain." Well, he was considering leaving for Spain.
Last month. I was leaving, Dave. I'm out. Ek is uit. I'm a Spanish resident. My head office is in Spain. I love it. It's calm there.
Yeah.
But I've taken a decision after my executive and many South Africans that were first against me and who are now supporting me said to me, lead us, don't go. Don't go. My hele familie bly. Nie is die volgende 3 redes hoekom, Dave. Nommer 1. die Here, nee, weet dat hierdie land is sy land.
Ja.
Ons kom uit 'n boerevolk wat as meer as een keer gekniel het vir die Here en vir hulle is gegee wat hulle gebid het.
Ja.
Moenie net dink dis wat bid nie.
Ek stem.
En hierdie land het 'n gebed vir seëning en vir vryheid. Nommer 2, presies wat jy nou net vir my gesê het. Our country is not junk, guys.
Nee.
We are making a junk ourselves.
Ja.
And number 3, ordinary people. Dave, Neil, Johan, Sipo,
Ja.
and Hamad are getting together under a united independent banner and saying, enough is enough.
Yes.
We want our country back. We want our dreams back. We want our children to recognize that they grow, stay, and remain
Ja.
in one of the most beautiful countries in the world.
Ja.
And if we can do those 3 things, no matter what you do, hier het ek 'n uur en 'n half oor 'n telefoon gepraat. Ons het oor baie min eintlik verskil.
Ja.
Want dis die eerste keer wat jy met my praat.
Ja, ja. En onthou, my approach was skepties. My approach was
Daar's
skepties.
een ding wat ek nie doen nie. Daar's ander goed wat ek doen. Maar daar's een ding wat ek nie doen nie en as jy my ontmoet en ek hoop jy ontmoet my want ek sal deurkom na jou toe, nee. As ek lieg nie. Ek is bang.
Ek lieg ook nie. Ek is jammer, dit is een van my grootste dinge waarvoor ek staan in die lewe,
Maar
is
ek is in
geregtigheid.
die wêreld.
Ja.
Want 'n lieg moet jy onthou. Ek lieg nie en ek sê nou vir jou. Met ons strategie, met ons wet wat agter ons is, gaan ons die ding terug kan vat stuk vir stuk.
Ja.
En in my leeftyd, nee, wat ek nooit geweet het sou gebeur nie, hoor nou vir my. The mighty ANC, remember? The mighty ANC,
Ja.
in my lifetime, lost the province.
Ja.
They never got that province back.
Ja.
In
Ja.
my leeftyd het die magtige ANC, nee,
Ja.
4 stede verloor.
Ja.
En van die 4 is die 2 die hoofstede van hierdie land.
Ja.
En hoor nou vir my, in my leeftyd gaan die ANC onder 50% daal in die volgende verkiesing.
Yes. Yes.
Nou hoor nou vir my, as hulle onder 50% daal, nee, en ons as 'n united independent movement kan 6 miljoen stemme kry, nee, dan is, onthou jy wat ek jou gesê het oor daai een laaitjie wat die hangbalans is,
Yes.
ons is daai balans.
Yes.
Dit is 'n feit.
Okay, I've just played that piece where he finishes off by saying that the ANC is going to drop below 50%, and if the UIM gets 6 million votes, we will hold the balance of power and basically take control. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's obviously a strategy. I think it can be very much calculated with all the stuff going on and the DA's losses and the ANC's losses. I mean, the ANC will never, after what's happening in this country, be the majority party again. 50% plus majority again. Just the fact that the corruption is so blatant in our faces. And, South Africans, we obviously suffer from some kind of Stockholm syndrome or something, because we accept this. We all of us accept this. So, yeah, they obviously have a strategy to find a coalition government. I mean, that seems to be pretty obvious. It's either the coalition option or the independent option, like he clearly stated.
Right. And look, there's a comment that he makes a little bit later on where he's talking about the amount of money through the World Bank he is doling out for infrastructure to African nations. And the comment he's making or suggesting is that through his contacts, he can make South Africa a lot stronger, and it's very disturbing, because it's becoming more like the EFF vision of one Africa as opposed to being South Africa. I'll just play that clip and then get you to talk to this. Okay, here we go.
The United Kingdom, not because he was the best prime minister.
Yeah.
He was the right guy for the right moment.
Ja, ja, ja.
I am not the best candidate for president of this country. Maar ek praat 6 tale. Ek's 'n struggle connection, ek's 'n ekonoom en ek is saam met my volk. En my volk is elke persoon wat besluit het, hy is 'n Suid-Afrikaner.
Ja.
En daar's een ding wat vir my tel, weet jy wat dit is? Daar's 19 buitelandse lande, wat gesê het, as hierdie ou president raak, as hy president raak,
Dan klim ons
dan
in.
het ons ten minste 'n ekonom.
Ja.
En dan ten minste, want ek skryf checks van $2.5 biljoen elke kwartaal in Afrika vir infrastruktuur. So as jy my maatskappy, ek kan alles jou WhatsApp op tyd. As jy kyk na die IFA, ons bou lughawens, havens, railways en power plants.
Ja.
Okay. Now, basically what he was talking about there was, well, he's basically bragging about the amount of money that he hands out to African countries through his connections through the World Bank and his own bank or fund. Now, what were your thoughts at that time when you heard that?
Okay, I'm going to be very honest with you. My thoughts on that of Neil de Beer being running, like he says, most African countries, or basically almost all African countries' economies for 2 years plus. What did they do to Africa? I mean, I don't see Africa prospering. I see lots of private companies owning Africa like they own South Africa, and lots of private companies and mining and mineral companies making billions out of Africa, but Africans are not scoring anything. There's no social development in Africa. So that was my first question to myself. What did you guys do in Africa for 27 years? I'm saying 27. Subtract the time that he was in Konto Sizwe before he joined Mbeki as economic advisor. What did you guys do in Africa? This whole NEPAD plan they rolled out. I mean, he was part of the formulation of the NEPAD plan under Thabo Mbeki, and that's crippled Africa. So why, and then you go and brag about the billions of dollars that's spent on infrastructure. I don't see that. I don't see, maybe into private companies, maybe into private investments, but I don't see it for Africans.
Well, you made a very interesting comment at the very start of our live stream, and that was that all these people who are sort of like flies hovering around the carcass of Africa are billionaires, and clearly it's their own self-interest, and Neil de Beer falls into that camp, whether he likes it or not. He's a very wealthy man, and he's very well connected.
Yeah, just as well all the other politicians that runs our country. I mean, even the opposition, they're all wealthy, and they don't have the issues that we normal South Africans struggle with. These guys are set up, they get their economic policies in place, and the investors invest where they need to and whatsoever, and they share the spoils. That is it. And so yeah, that is my honest opinion, based on many other facts as well.
Right. Okay. Which really brings us back to the question I asked at the very start: is who is Neil de Beer's handler? Because his world is based around, as he says, he says admits by himself that it's all about money. That's his world. It's all about money. Yeah,
it's basically, but like I said earlier, see, I state this clearly. I am not judgmental of people. I am not. I've seen lots of people find themselves in situations or get themselves into situations where they get stuck. A lot of the politicians as well. Some of them means well. And once they reach that stage where they now grow into leadership or whatever, they get completely controlled. And I think it becomes like, I don't know, because they all end up in these situations. So it has to be something about the system that they're part of and the people that handles the system or controls the system. But so yeah, the same thing goes for all of them. But he's definitely pretty much involved in this more global cabal. I don't think personally Neil is the head of this whatsoever. I do think he's part of the South African setup, as you heard in that conversation as well. This new government or system rollout won't be sponsored from foreign countries. apart from politicians and stuff being sponsored from like Musimai Mani and whatsoever, sponsored from foreign countries, but the system itself will be locally funded. So I would like to ask Neil de Beer a couple of questions, actually. Well, I would honestly not mind even having a live debate on your show with him, because we need answers. We got more questions than answers. And I would like to know, who's the 9 people he referred to, the 9 families that met up 5 years ago that decided to change this country? And that same thing that rolled up to now, when he was decided he's going to be like the next president. He's like the leader of this team. Obviously, because of his struggle credentials, he's part in the ANC and on all sides. And now I definitely see him working with the farmers again and everybody else. So yeah, I've got a couple of questions for him. Who are those 9 families? Because we want to know who controls and owns this country.
Right. Well, clearly Lord Renwick seems to have a lot of interest in South Africa, but that he's a guy based in the UK. And just getting back to your suggestion for a live debate, I'm sure Neil de Beer is watching this live stream tonight. I would welcome hosting a debate between yourself and Neil de Beer, where you can ask him questions, and I will just facilitate the debate. Yeah, look, that's a challenge that I would put out to Neil, and Neil would love to have you on. I might have a couple of questions to ask as well, but let's get back to one of the issues that is really in a lot of people's minds in South Africa right now, and that is the only way South Africa can present a planned civil war is by exposing the truth to the masses about the owners of South Africa, the ANC and the politicians. All other options lead to conflict. What are your thoughts on that?
My opinion there is what I'm doing now, for instance. We as South Africans have to overcome our own personal fears, and we need to see ourselves as South Africans. We actually need to start an organization, and we call ourselves South Africans, and we get 60 million people belonging to it, so we can run our own country. But my thoughts on that is, yeah, there's some very serious issues actually connected to this discussion, which you know as well, Scott. And you must imagine, last time I came on the show and I said I will review a lot of information, and I'm going to be honest with you. At the time, I was too afraid to do it. I was too afraid. People asked, he didn't really review much. He didn't share names of the families involved whatsoever. You heard some of the family names on that conversation. And but I'm like a normal South African, but I have to overcome my fears, my personal fears of what will the reaction of these people be. I have to, because I have to put our country first. And so every other South African must make the same decision, because that's the only way we can beat this. That's the only way we can get our country independent again, because we are not independent. I specifically asked that question to Neil de Beer. Is South Africa even independent still? And he said no, because we are not. We are owned. And I personally believe this is in the interest of every single South African, no matter what race or culture. I personally believe that at this moment, the best option for South Africans is probably to go back to our roots and embrace our cultures. If you are Zulu, if you are Xhosa, if you are a Khoisan, if you are a Boer, whatever you are. And then we can negotiate with each other and see how we're going to overcome this. Because at the moment, we don't have any backbone to fall onto. We're all just like the South Africans accepting this mass corruption, accepting all this political playbook that's being played out and we see us. A lot of South Africans ask these questions. We are not stupid. We ask these questions. And so that is my opinion. That's the only people have to overcome their fears. So I had to overcome mine. And here I raise a question. And it's a very, very serious question, because I've debated this with many people before. I've debated this with many black people before. And I know it's a very sensitive situation. But Neil de Beer's involvement in Kontowe Sizwe before 1994 tells me that it was collateral. It was some a form of what's insurance. Some form of insurance to have one of the big business families' grandchild right at the top enclaves of the ANC, Kontowe Sizwe. Intelligence, directly under Jacob Zuma. And I posed a very serious question to him, and I'm not sure if we should discuss this now or a bit later.
No, go ahead.
But there's very sensitive issues here, and South Africans must understand. I sit here with this information, and actually, I must apologize for sitting with this information for months on end and being too afraid to share it with everyone, because this is the truth. And I brought up the question while we were having a discussion, and I asked, who killed Chris Hani?
Now can I just play an audio tape where this actually gets discussed? Let me do that, and then I'm going to get you to carry on with your comment. I just want to put context behind this, just so people know what Neil de Beer had to say about Chris Hani. Here we go.
Obviously, the ANC regime did not have the security forces, the military, the police, everything, all the weapons, everything like that in hand. So there was a delay time for me. Because if I look at the role Cyril Ramaphosa played, and I look at the role all of these people played, I look at the role you would know better than anyone probably, like Chris Hani's role, and who took Chris Hani's out. That was not our people that took him out. That was not. Say again?
But it wasn't. There's only 18 people alive, yes?
Yes.
That knows who did that.
Yes. So
When I say did that, we know who pulled the trigger, yes?
yes, that is true. But who sponsored?
But you know who told them to pull the trigger?
That is the question, and I've always been I'm into
It will never be answered.
yeah, I'm into all types of affairs. You know, I like to follow these
What I'm
things.
saying, Dave, listen. 18 mense weet wie dit was.
Wel, ek het al gehoor in die 2017 en voorheen 2014 in die SHKP se kongres het hulle liedjies begin sing. Zuma, tell us who really killed Chris Hani. So obviously is daar
Zuma was one of the 18 people that knows because he was the head of intelligence of MK.
Yes, I that's what I figured at the time.
Now, of the 18 people, 7 are dead.
Okay, is it? So we sit with a similar situation. I'm telling you straight. I'm looking at this Julius Malema. I'm looking at this absolute decoy that's been built to channel the anger of what's going on in this country away from the government. So every time something happens.
Okay, I've just played the piece about Chris Hani. Just add a bit of meat to the bone there.
This is obviously the most sensitive point of this discussion, because we need to understand just the fact that they admitted 18 people knew who did it, it means it's not the right wing Afrikaners that was blamed. Yes, Clive W. Lewis and Janus Wallos pulled the trigger, but that was not the ones who called the shots. And I am very seriously, I would like Neil de Beer to explain to South Africa, and Black South Africa specifically, who killed Chris Hani, because that is a division tool that's been used to divide South Africa over many years. Many farmers have been killed in the name of Chris Hani. Many protests and stuff is all in the name of Chris Hani. We didn't take him out. I'm saying we, I mean white South Africans, or as they refer to right-wing South Africans. I've debated this point so many times with black people on News3.com, on Facebook and whatsoever, and they believe that it was the right-wing South Africans. Now, to many white South Africans, this history is in the past. It happened 1993, so it's forgotten, because it was obviously not our struggle hero, but it was theirs. So the fact that Jacob Zuma knew who killed Chris Hani, and now you must understand the fact that Jacob Zuma comes out every now and then in public, like just last Friday, or I can't remember the date, when he was in court, the last time he was in court. He again threatened to share the ANC secrets with the public. Now, what are those secrets? Are these some of those secrets? And why would the Beer's grandson would know about this, be one of the 9 people alive that know about this? And who was the other people that's dead already? Was Nelson Mandela one of them? Was Evie de Klerk one of them? Was who are the people that knows about this? South Africa needs answers on this. And this is actually a crime that he blatantly just admitted to on a phone call of Jacob Zuma knows who did it because he was the head of MK Intelligence at the time, and he worked directly under Jacob Zuma. So South Africa to start healing, in my opinion, going forward, because there is solutions for all our problems. I can assure that South Africans were never ever given the chance to find solutions to our problems. We've been just divided all this time, and so this to me is a very, very critical point. I did not up to today want to share that, but I know it needs to be shared. And I know this information and video needs to be shared with black people as well, so they can understand that they've been lied to for 27 years by their leaders, by their ex-president, by people they trusted and believed. And who was involved in that? I'm sure it's not just only the ANC that was involved in that, because obviously this corruption, stealing the country, state capture, that is obviously what happened. With Neil de Beer being up in the top enclaves of the ANC, that was state capture back then in 94 already, or pre-94 already. And so South Africans need to know that we are pinned against each other. We are, this racism in this country. I mean, I look at our constitution. I actually did myself a favor and read through it last Friday. Just read through our constitution and see this is not the South Africa we are living in. That is actually the words of our constitution. It doesn't even come close to what we're living in this country today. We're so divided. Everybody's fighting each other.
You see, the thing that worries me about Neil de Beer, and look, as I always say, he's an intriguing character, but the thing that worries me about Neil de Beer is, in one breath, he's going to go to Spain, that's last year, and leave South Africa, and then a few weeks later, now he's going to be running for president of South Africa. That to me doesn't work. You know, if you're this wonderful leader, you know where you're going, you know what you're doing, you don't change course that dramatically. And the other thing is that Neil keeps on saying he's not a liar. He always speaks the truth. And yet wherever he goes, when you start unpacking some of the things he's been involved in, and I'm talking here about Chris Hani, if he's not a liar, and he's one of the few people who knows who is behind the murder of Chris Hani, why doesn't he come out with it and let people know? Because that to me is deception. You know, this is a hugely important subject, as you've actually just raised. If the whole of South Africa knew, for example, that it was Jacob Zuma who actually ordered the murder of Chris Hani, if South Africa knew that, then it would take a lot of pressure out of this racial issue that you've just been talking about. What are your thoughts about the Neil de Beer who comes across as this, honest, integrity, born-again Christian, and then the deception that seems to follow him with whatever he does?
My opinion on a lot of topics that we discussed, I do believe he is actually talking the truth in many ways, in many topics. But I do believe there's a spin on it. And if you take the same conversation and you just actually explain the conversation, then it sounds different than Neil de Beer would explain it. I'm sorry, but I give him credit on that. He's got a way of spinning things so it sounds different. It actually sounds different. But I do believe in most of the things he's talking the truth. Obviously, there's a lot of things he cannot reveal. But I would say if you go around and say, I'm a believer and I believe in God, which I do. I believe in God and I have no issue saying it or whatsoever. I fully believe in God. And then you would do the right and righteous thing for South Africans. And not for your handlers or the cabal that you're part of, but for South Africans, for 60 million people that kills each other every day. That is your obligation. If you believe that you believe in God and you are righteous, then you have to do the right thing for this country, not for yourselves.
Right. Now, okay. We've covered that Chief Justice Machang is apparently in the corner of Neil de Beer. Okay. Now, last year, this landmark judgment was made by the full bench of the High Court, where they are now allowing direct elections, which is what the basis of the UIM is all about. How will South Africa react when they learn that there is a new political system being implemented in the country, while your two major parties, the ANC and the Democratic Alliance, are self-destructing, which is going to leave this chasm, which hopefully will not be filled by the economic freedom fighters?
I do believe at the moment I hope and believe. I've actually had sent emails to Julius Malema over the same period as well. And I'll say this publicly. If Julius Malema can take the energy that he has as a firebrand leader and apply it to do good for this country or to unite the people of this country, he could be a successful leader. But he chooses to get the bad out of people. He chooses the people that are hurt, that are obviously racialized, and he gets people throwing feces in the airport or on the M2 and stuff like that. Is not the people you want to run this country. Why would you go with those people? What are your intentions? And every now and then you threaten civil war. So I trust and I hope that Julius Malema, where he's currently positioned, do not grow at all. He's a party do not grow, and people see through him for what he is, because he is a master manipulator. He gets this weakness in people and he runs with it. But I do fear that as things are progressing and the ANC and DA are self-destructing, that the EFF might, because then it gives you the good and bad option. You have the coalition on the one side, which you always have a left and a right, a far left or a far right, or a left and a right. You have to have the two options, otherwise you cannot divide the people. So I believe we'll see a coalition on the one side and the EFF on the other side. I honestly don't see the DA and the ANC making it further as majority parties, not after what they've been doing and what's being exposed. And it will keep on getting exposed. It will keep on getting exposed. And I actually request other South Africans to, whatever they have to expose these people, to do so for the sake of our country.
Right. Okay, well, look, I'm finding this really fascinating, because politics is the most dirty business in the world. I mean, there's no question about that. If anyone who's been involved in politics will say, yes, you're right, Scott, you're right, because if you're involved in politics, you have no friends. People will shoot you down in the public sphere as quickly as they can. And I take my hat off to people who have integrity in politics. And this is why we're having this discussion, because a lot of people say, how can a man who once spied for the ANC now suggest that he is going to be president for all the people in South Africa? Especially as someone said in the side chat just now, what about his comments about the white people, where he had that rant, and he said, I do not represent the white people. And I don't know if you heard that audio tape, but you know, this is where people have concerns about the integrity of what he's saying.
Well, my main concern is starting just looking at the persona, and the fact that, like I said, I want to know who the connected families are, all of them, because I know some of their names, and you would know some of their names now as well. But I want to know all of them. And I think we can basically guess who the rest are, because they're very much involved in South African politics.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, it's funny enough that the EFF always jumps up and shouts white minority capital, but they will never name them. That's just funny to me, actually, because they know who they are. They do. They know who they are. But the fact that they have bases outside of South Africa, that makes me upset, because these guys are set up to leave the country at any time and leave us with whatever shite they've cooked up here. And we have to struggle to resolve these issues. So that to me is quite sad. I believe somebody said the other day the Ruperts are moving to UK or moved to the UK, and the Beers are living in Spain, and Michael Louis set up is in Switzerland or somewhere. And so these guys are all foreign bases. They don't care to live in South Africa. If things goes the wrong way, and we sit with a crisis or chaos here, they step out. But that is actually something that South Africans should consider. Once everybody wakes up to the fact that we are all controlled and divided for a specific reason, South Africans should decide not to let these people leave this country until we've got clarity on what's going on and where's all our money gone, where's everything gone. That is the question I have, because that is traceable actually. And this goes for the ANC government, the DA, the Neil de Beers, the Rupert. I mean, I still stand with the fact. Johan Rupert, 2 weeks into this pandemic, stood there and said on national TV, this is not a pause, this is a reset. Who was he talking to, and what does he know? He's a businessman. What does he know about this is how long this pandemic is going to last? This is not a pause, this is a reset. How would they have that information? So this to me is very important. The fact that these people have bases offshore, and they can stir up whatever shit they want in this country, and we will have to live with it.
Yeah. Well, look, the fact that he admits he's a member of the World Economic Forum, where Klaus Schwab, the leader of the WF, has said there is going to be a great reset, and the lockdown was the perfect excuse to actually bring this about, because countries have been very, very badly damaged financially. The fact that he's a member of that organization, and now he suddenly has political ambitions after. This is after Klaus Schwab talked about the Great Reset. This is, it comes back to the deception. What's going on behind the scenes? Who's his handler? Who's running the show? Is it Michael Louis? Is it the Ruperts? Is it the Oppenheimers? Who's actually behind what is going on here? Because this is a huge change in political direction. But please, go ahead.
Those questions, Scott, we need to ask also. We've seen a lot of influence in South Africa from the UK, from Britain. So in just a short explanation, what I believe has happened here, obviously the British came to South Africa, the Boers fought the British, they went away, came back with an evil plan, burned down all the farms and put the women and children in concentration camps. By the way, these type of facts are not taught to our school children anymore. So the black South Africans don't know this history about the white South Africans. But a good point there is the Zulu nation as well fought the British. So both sides were fighting for independence in South Africa. And then the British government obviously installed a puppet government, which was done all over this world, actually. And the Boers fought that government, if you remember, in 1914, the rebellion. The Boers fought that government because it was a British-installed puppet government that took control over the country, the mineral resources and everything via the National Party government.
Wasn't that Jan Smuts?
Yes. And the Boers actually fought that government specifically because it was a British puppet government.
Yeah.
And but funny enough, 2 years before that, in 1912, the ANC was started. And funny enough, you would remember during the history there was all this information that became public or was questioned actually about the Oppenheimers' financial support for the ANC before 94.
Right.
So this comes a long way. And I believe there's a big British hand. That's why I've specifically asked Neil de Beer who's involved and which president. You would hear the conversation. Thabo Mbeki is more Western aligned. Jacob Zuma was more Eastern aligned. And I don't think it matters which side the president's aligned and his team's aligned. Because remember, it was explained to us very clearly the other day when Cyril Ramaphosa was in Zondo Commission. It's a controlled network. You have the president employs the ministers, and then you have the ANC, what is it called, Employment Commission, that is chaired by the deputy president. And so all the positions in government, directors, deputy directors, and whatsoever downwards, get filled via this ANC-controlled, via the vice president positions. And that means ESCOM, that means everywhere. That means throughout every important economic sector. So it's a total control system. You control the president, you control the whole grid downwards. And I think that has been at play for a long time, and we could hear over the years many, the bell potting issues. Our statements. I still ask the question today every time I see Ramaphosa read a statement, because it's not his own words. You do not talk like a kindergarten teacher to South Africans, when you know you are the president of these people. I mean, then you read somebody else's statements, and we sit here like idiots and just eat everything up as cake. It's like, I don't get that.
Yeah.
And obviously, all of that, or most of that, comes from foreign. I mean, I'm sorry. President Ramaphosa, in my opinion, is just, he's a billionaire. They just play the game. They just, here's a statement, read it. Oh, my fellow South Africans. It's
Absolutely. Yeah, you take everything he says with a pinch of salt. Now, just getting back to the handlers, I find it very interesting that about a month ago, just hang on. Just on that,
carry on. Ramaphosa.
Yeah.
Just on that point of Ramaphosa, and we heard the second COVID-19 speech. People can go and search it on YouTube. The second COVID-19 speech that Ramaphosa had 2 months into this pandemic, he said we will have a complete new economic system after this.
Black economic transformation he talked about, and it'll be good for South Africa.
But the question is, he referred to this new system a few times as well. What is the new system? Is it not capitalist? Is it communist? Is it democracy? Is it dictatorship? What is it?
Well, I have my own views on that, Dave, and I reckon what he was saying in sort of hidden speech was that the lockdown was going to bankrupt a lot of white small businesses, and just like they did with the tourism industry in recent weeks or recent months, they made funding available only if your tourist business was black economic empowerment friendly. In other words, you had a major shareholder who was a black person. If you didn't have that and you're in the tourism industry, you could go and fart in the wind, because they won't help you at all. I think that's what he was talking about when he talked about the black economic transformation, using white taxpayers' money to fund a system where a particular industry, whether it's tourism, mining, whatever it might be, would be taken over by his new black economic transformation. I think that's what he was talking about. Now, let's just go back a month ago, and I just want to touch on this. Johan Rupert said, apparently a month ago, to the ANC leadership that if they didn't start arresting people over criminal charges, and at that time we were looking at Ace Magashula, he would stop funding the ANC. And all of a sudden, Ramaphosa got up and said, "Oh, we're gonna start being serious about this." And then now Ace Magashula has been sidelined by the ANC as Secretary General, but apparently he's not been sidelined. Nobody really knows what the heck is going on. But it's clear that people like Rupert have a huge control over the government in South Africa.
Well, that's pretty obvious. It came out with discussions. It came out with media statements and news media on the EFF as well. Obviously, we all know. Just very recently, say year and a half, 2 years ago, it came out that meetings between Rupert and the EFF, for instance. So, I think it just colors this picture that they are all connected. They are all having a piece of the pie to manage. And we don't have a government. We have a board of directors with a CEO. That's for sure. Right.
Now, why will the UIM be different, do you think, to what you've just suggested?
I don't think it's in any way different. Look at the structure. The structure it's an independent platform, which obviously is managed by someone. In this case, the president has been, I'm not sure if it's been elected or just chosen as Neil de Beer. So he controls the platform. So they control whoever is independent candidates allowed on their platform that will ultimately run for president. And if you heard the conversation as well, I don't like this type of system they're talking about, in all honesty, where you have a president and then you have like a mayor or a regional leader that has a veto vote almost. His vote is the only one that basically counts. So that sounds like a dictatorship, actually, if you think about that.
Yeah. Now, look, I know you have an interest in Sina van Rensburg, and so do I, and his prophecies and what he said is going to happen. Do you want to see if you can dovetail those prophecies into what we're looking at right now in the situation in South Africa?
Well, I do have, honestly, I have my own opinion about Sino van Rensburg as visions and how that plays out. You can actually, some of it, see it playing out in South Africa. And I want to take this opportunity to ask white people in South Africa to stop being afraid. Okay, we've been in this position many times before. We do not hate other people based on their color, language, or whatever is happening. We have our issues, definitely. We are highly upset and angry about all the murders and the unsafe living conditions we are under. But I see this panning out very positively very soon. And I don't see the enemy, like I think I mentioned to you before, Scott, Sino van Rensburg saw a bucket of blood falling over, not a river or a stream or a dam of blood. And I do think we have a common enemy. And I do think South Africans, and I strongly believe, that South Africans will wake up to this fact and South Africans will unite against this common enemy. Because we can sort our issues out. I refer back to the land, which is so much. Why was nothing resolved with the land for the last 27 years? Because if the land issue is ever resolved, then we don't have nothing to divide us. So because I can tell South Africans there is lots of land in government hands. That's why they refuse to do a land audit.
It's about 70%.
There's lots of land in these cabals' hands. Lots of them. I mean, you heard the conversation, for instance, the beer referring to Michael Louis as a big land owner. So there's lots of land. And I don't say, who owns the land owns the land. It is a logical concept. But South Africans should also consider the fact that back in the old ages, we were like, back in 1914, there was like less than 1 billion people in the world. There is now 8 billion people in the world. So if you're a white South African and you own 3-4 farms, I personally think it's unfair. Sell off those farms, sell them off, and the government can pay for them with all the trillions of dollars they've stolen. Because you do get some people that owns 3 or 4 farms and 2 of them are lying dormant. And that will always create an issue because we do not live in a time of 1 billion people in this world anymore. It is just logic. So, but I put forward an idea and a bit of a blueprint for our government as well as how we can overcome these issues. Where the person leases a 2-hectare piece of land, for instance, over a 2-year period of time. And he gets government assistance and a blueprint on what exactly and how to farm it. And it's basically a guarantee that if he brings his part, he will get this outcome in 6 months. And it's data driven. It's we've got all the technology these days. It's data driven. So after 2 years, that guy can opt and say, okay, right, he's been successful. He can continue another 2 years on a lease and then buy a bigger piece of land, which will be available in the market. Or he can buy that piece of land at a fair market price. We don't want to, don't cut off the guy's head. This land is already owned by the government already. They've bought out so many farms since 94, 97 that we don't have to know what they bought out. Now and then, like now recently again, you heard Ramaphosa passed a few farms to people. The land is all in government hands. Why would Majibeng municipality sit on 2.5 billion rand agricultural land? Google that. It's available in the menu. So the solutions for food security is like you would know by now. Food security for me is a critical thing because we can see across the world that this climate change is heavily affecting food security, and we can change that. We can all jump in and we can turn South Africa into a super rich country just based on food, with leaving out the minerals and everything else that we as South Africans should own, by the way, because the government owned it and then they sold it off. And private people owned it, and all sold it off to British and other people. And we've got nothing in this country left anymore. There's nothing. There's just the land, which we argue and fight about.
Yeah,
and our
food security is for a discussion another day. And I totally agree with you. In America, for example, the government is now paying farmers not to send their crops or their harvest to market. They're actually paying them to just destroy it. Now, why would you do that at this time when there's a huge shortage of food? There's something very strange going on globally, and it's obviously by the people who control what's happening behind the scenes. Now, I want to get back to what we're talking about here tonight. And I'm going to wrap up this discussion because I think we could talk about this for hours, and that's not what I want to do. There are two things I just want to make clear to people who are watching this video now and who will watch it later. The first is I will be putting up on the lovinglifetv.com platform, which is our new video platform that we're transitioning to. I will put up the full unedited audio tape that is between Dave and Neil de Beer, and you can listen to the whole thing. It runs for nearly an hour and a half. It's fascinating. It gives you a really good insight into some of the concerns I've raised tonight. And the second thing I'd like to say is, Neil de Beer, I know you're watching us tonight. Please, I welcome you to come and have a debate with Dave about the subjects that he wants to discuss with you. And obviously one of those big questions is, who are those 9 families who basically seem to be running the country? All right, Dave, look, I'm going to... sorry, I've got a couple of questions. Let me just throw those to you. I've been so engrossed in what we've been talking about. Okay, Hanli Fasaki says, okay, do you have the audio where he swore at the whites too? Yes, of course I have that. And it's on my archives. Nat Quinn says, if you're so concerned with South Africa and its people, why do you say you have nothing against Neil de Beer?
Well, that is my personal view of basically every South African. I was contemplating and sitting with the position, as you would hear from the recording as well. Jacob Zuma, for instance, was this president that everybody loved, and they loved. And until 3 years into his term, then suddenly he turned around. Now, I remember that time. That's when they announced the second revolution. I'm not sure if people will remember that. That's when they announced the second revolution, and it seems like, listening to the audio there, that Jacob Zuma turned away from the plan. It basically sounds very much like Jacob Zuma turned away from the plan. And that is when 5 years ago, when the decision was taken to get these families got together and to bring change. Now, I also question that fact that what is going on about Jacob Zuma? Did he play the game and then decided he's not going to follow through? And he built himself a fort and he hides inside there behind Sizwe members. Not saying he hides, but you understand what I'm referring to. So that to me is very interesting, because I would like to find out or know what his current position is about this cabal, about who owns and controls this country. And obviously there's corruption and issues involved, but this is involved in every single president that served. I mean, under Ramaphosa, he was vice president when all this corruption went on, and we suddenly just look away from him and look at Jacob Zuma. No, he was part and parcel of the problem. So, that to me is a very serious thing. And before we cut off, I just want to say this again, because remember, this was not an easy decision. It took a while, and the reason is, obviously I've got family and loved ones and people around me as well, the question is, why do I not hate him, or do I not? Because it's a personal thing. I see a person in the position they are placed in, or like I said, Neil de Beer is born into this. He's born into this. So for the guy's whole life, it was a life of deception, a double agent, working behind the scenes with him, going to his Sizwe, working. It must have been difficult. I'm saying this, and I don't think he's got an option. If he has, do the right thing. Do the right thing. But if he doesn't have an option, then don't do it. Don't continue. Because that's why I can't hate a person. I hate everything that's being done to South Africans over these last 27 years, from all sides, from government, from every single one. But I can't hate the person for the position they find themselves in. That's what I'm trying to say, if it makes sense to me.
Right. Now, just one final question. Does a leopard change its spots?
Okay. I think I do have an answer on that. Just taking out of one's personal account through life. We make decisions, we make stupid decisions, we mess up, we hammer ourselves over the head because of that for many years, and then we decide, enough of that now. I'm going to continue, and I'm going to change, and I'm going to do the righteous thing and do the right thing. And so I do think it's possible, especially with God. If you really believe in God, I want to ask this question. If South Africans, especially white Western South Africans, or actually all South Africans, just ask it bluntly. If you really believe in God, first of all, does it look like what's going on in this country is righteous and moral? No, not at all. So if you really believe in God, you need to stand up for what's right. You need to stand up for what's right and fight for what's right. And that includes Neil de Beer. If you really believe in God, you need to stand up and start fighting for what is right and righteous for this country. Right. Because I do, and that is why I'm doing this. That is part of the reason I'm doing this. Because I believe in God, and I believe there will be change coming. According to the Bible, according to what Stellenbosch Mafia, I believe he's a prophet. I'm honest. I believe he's a prophet. I don't follow Stellenbosch Mafia like a Bible or but I do see a lot of the things happening. I've seen a lot of the things happening over my lifespan that was said in 1940. So I do believe he has the ability to prophesy. Why not? I mean, if the people 2,000 years ago, we need to see this in picture. 2,000 years ago is only 20 people over 100 years old. Okay, it's not very long ago. And then we have prophets, which were people. It was people. It was not like some people that fell out of the sky. No, it was people that God revealed many things to. And it's happening again today. It's happening again today. And people should stand up. They must stop being scared. Start fighting for this country and for the 60 million people of this country, because none of us deserve it. A lot of the people are born into racist families. A lot of people are guided by schools, and they get born into this. And I don't think that's righteous. I don't think it's righteous. I don't say people must intertwine and intermingle and whatever. But I do. We've got the right to what's we call it, the right to associate. We've got the right to associate, the right to do our own thing. We are the people that owns this, that's supposed to own this country, all of us. But by fighting each other, we allowed a handful of people to take total control of this country and through it our lives.
Divide and rule.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, fantastic. Look, Dave, thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your thoughts and comments. I really appreciate your insight, and that tape is absolute gem. As I said, I'll put it up on lovinglivetv.com so people can listen to the whole thing, get everything into context. You were going to say something, Dave?
No, I was just going to say, like I said, there's been a couple of things revealed via that tape as well, and I'm sure it might cause a couple of eruptions because Neil de Beer being a top ANC spy, revealing stuff, internal things about the ANC, that cannot sit very well. I actually asked a question in the past. How could the ANC up to now? I mean, have you heard the ANC say anything about Neil de Beer? A top Mkonto for so many years. And he just goes on and, he knows the enemy and he declares them the enemy. And the ANC is just dead silent about it. Does that sound right? They don't try to take him out. They don't try to oppose him. They don't try, nothing.
Well, I'm going to play a little bit of that audio tape to shut off where Neil de Beer actually says that he has had his life threatened by the ANC. Let's just listen to that. Here we go.
That's them.
They are normal people, Dave. And that is the great thing about South Africa. This country was changed and will be changed again by the normal men, not by people that sit there, drive around in big cars, have bodyguards until they die, and don't do one damn thing.
Yes.
Dan vra die mense, hoekom het ek nou leiwagte? Want die ANC het besluit hulle wil my doodmaak.
Is hulle teen jou?
Hulle wil my doodmaak.
Yes.
Want ek weet te veel, né?
Ja.
Want jy sal onthou in die begin van die gesprek, het ek weer gesê, daar's 18 mense iets. Ja. Ek is een van hulle.
Yes.
So ek sê net, Winston Churchill became the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom not because he was the best Prime Minister.
Yeah.
He was the right guy for the right moment.
Yeah.
Okay, I just played a little bit of that where he basically says that the ANC want him dead because he knows too many of their secrets. And I can understand the dilemma that Neil would be in, because he's obviously stampy on a lot of toes. But look, that's a debate for another day. I just want to say once again to Neil, would love to host you on a live stream with Dave to debate discussions on subjects that Dave wants to raise, and we know one of the points that he wants to discuss. Always welcome to come and join us. If your media fellow just contacts Marlena and says, yes, we'd love to do a live stream with Dave, you got it. And just let us know, and we'll get that up as soon as possible. All right, Dave, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure having you on and getting your insights and your thoughts on things. I'm going to just shut off the live stream now. To those who are watching the live stream, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Please remember to subscribe and register on lovinglivetv.com. And please have a great evening. Take care, and bye for now.